Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome to Front and Center, the program that focuses on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be Front and Center. And you can watch this program on our Facebook page and YouTube channel anytime, anywhere over Radyo Pilipinas World Service. And you can also hear us on our audio streaming at Evox PBS receiver app. And now, you can catch this program on shortwave radio. Starting December 1st, Radyo Pilipinas World Service can now be heard on the following frequencies. On our English programs airing from 10 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. Manila time or 0200 to 3:30 UTC, that's at 12.020 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.665 MHz. Meanwhile, on our Filipino programs airing from 1:30 a.m. until 4:30 a.m. Manila time or 17:30 to 20:30 UTC, you can hear us on the following frequencies: 9.370 MHz, 9.925 MHz, and 12.120 MHz. Join us for another edition of Front and Center with your host, Jerome Toledo.
Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
On November 28, the International Criminal Court Appeal Chamber has rejected Rodrigo Duterte's or former President Rodrigo Duterte's request for interim release. That's a tantamount to house arrest or humanitarian release or on technically a bail, confirming his detention at The Hague during the trial. Meanwhile, the Philippine Supreme Court is still deliberating on the petition questioning the legality of his March 11 arrest. And aside from the former president, a possible warrant of arrest will be served against Senator Ronald De La Rosa, but the ICC cannot confirm this as of now. So where do we go from here? So right now, we're now being joined by the our guest for today, the ICC accredited lawyer, and at the same time, he's the executive director of Center Law Philippines and a senior partner at Butuyan and Rael Law Offices and a counsel for victims of the Duterte administration's war on drugs. None other than Attorney Gilbert Andres. Good morning, Attorney Andres. Thank you so much for joining us in the program Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Morning, Jerome, and good morning also to your viewers at Front and Center.
Thank you so much. All right. So the ICC Appeal Chamber has ruled that former President Rodrigo Duterte must remain in detention as it cites risks that cannot be mitigated. And given his advanced age and the defense claims of his declining health, is this absolute refusal to grant house arrest or even within the Netherlands where he is right now, is that unprecedented? And does that signal that the court views him as a high flight risk or a danger to witness safety, Attorney Andres?
Well, as of now, this is the decision of the appeals chamber, which was unanimous. So it actually denied the appeal of Mr. Duterte on his interim release. And this is actually consistent with the jurisprudence of the ICC. In fact, anyone who's been charged, arrested, and detained for core crimes such as crimes against humanity, genocide, war crimes under Article 5 has never been granted an interim release application. So this is not unprecedented. This is actually consistent with the jurisprudence of the ICC as well as the decision of the pretrial chamber, which was upheld unanimously.
So meaning to say, Attorney Andres, this it makes sense because the accused must be present in court, like this one in ICC.
Yes, this is actually consistent. In fact, if you look at the decision, it actually denies all of the three grounds for appeal by the defense. Because the first ground was rejected because there was actually a reasonable reading by the pretrial chamber as to the facts, evidence, and the law, especially with respect to Mr. Duterte being a flight risk. Secondly, the appeals chamber also rejected the second ground for appeal, which really centered on the proposed conditions for interim release proposed by the defense, and which was rejected by the pretrial chamber for not being sufficient to really secure Mr. Duterte being a flight risk. And the appeals chamber actually agreed with the pretrial chamber that it was a reasonable decision for it to consider the conditional release conditions as not being sufficient. And the third, which is the humanitarian grounds, because the defense was arguing that Mr. Duterte should be temporarily released based on humanitarian grounds and on his health. But this was rejected by the pretrial chamber because it's not really a ground under Article 58 of the Rome Statute. And the appeals chamber also agreed with the pretrial chamber.
I see. Okay, but going back here in the Philippines, particularly in the Philippine jurisprudence, Attorney Andres, because we have a unique yet a tricky situation where the accused is already in The Hague, yet the Duterte family has a pending, or Duterte camp rather, has a pending petition before the Supreme Court, arguing that his March 11 arrest was illegal. That's what they stated there upon their appeal to the Supreme Court. And if our SC rules in favor of the Dutertes, does that domestic ruling coming from the SC have any teeth, or does it make sense in international law? So and at the same time, can the Philippine court order the ICC to return a suspect?
Actually, if the Supreme Court will just be consistent with this previous jurisprudence, my opinion is that the Supreme Court will actually dismiss those petitions of Mr. Duterte and his family based on being moot and academic. And I base this, Jerome, on my very own petition with respect to the International Criminal Court withdrawal of Mr. Duterte without Senate concurrence. It's a Philippine Coalition for the ICC versus Executive Secretary. We actually filed a case before the Philippine Supreme Court, and the Philippine Supreme Court actually dismissed ours and two of the petitions. Why? Because according to the Philippine Supreme Court, the ICC already recognized the withdrawal of the Philippines, and the Philippines cannot do anything about it, and then dismiss our petitions for being moot and academic. So just based on that same decision, based on the practice of the Supreme Court, it's actually moot and academic, all of those petitions of Mr. Duterte with respect to his arrest. Why? Because it's already outside of the territory of the Philippines, it's already outside of the sovereign territory of the Philippines. And any decision of the Supreme Court on this matter cannot really be executed and will just bring potential embarrassment. And I really think that it will be dismissed based on mootness and being academic.
But for a legal basis, Attorney Andres, can the Duterte camp file a motion to reconsider his case and question again the legality of the arrest?
Well, based on the rules and procedure and evidence of the ICC, there's no more provision for a motion for reconsideration. So it's unlike here in the Philippines, one can still file an MR, but there's not a provision in the rules of procedure and evidence. So that's already it with respect to the appeal on interim release.
I see. Okay, but the Duterte defense team, Attorney Andres, as we know, will file a motion seeking to dismiss the case by arguing that the Philippine authorities conducted the arrest of the former president under a secret warrant that which the camp, Duterte camp, claim violated the local constitution. As a lawyer for the victims of the war on drugs of the Duterte administration, how do you counter that argument that procedural shortcuts at home should invalidate the custody abroad?
Well, actually, that we need to look at it from the which perspective. If it's an argument based on Philippine domestic law, it will not fly before the ICC. Why? The ICC only adheres to international law such as the Rome Statute and its rules on procedure and evidence. So any domestic statute cannot be used to invoke any motions before the ICC. Now, if the petition is before the Philippine Supreme Court applies Philippine domestic law and the Constitution. But again, as I stated before, I think the arrest and the questions on the legality of the arrest of Mr. Duterte before the Philippine Supreme Court is already moot and academic. Now, with respect to international law and the International Criminal Court, questions as to his arrest, there's already a doctrine in international criminal law, Jerome. It's called Malacaptus Benedictentus, meaning to say any questions on how a person was actually arrested and eventually placed in detention will not actually affect the jurisdiction of the international tribunal that has custody over that person. This was actually affirmed in a very famous case, Prosecutor versus Eichmann, that was decided by the District Court of Jerusalem. So I think if the ICC will just be consistent with international criminal law jurisprudence, it will actually dismiss any pleading for that matter.
I see. Okay, but moving on, but still on this case regarding the detention of the former President Duterte, it's been nearly 9 months since the surrender, with the interim release issued now, as of now settled. Are we looking at the start of the actual trial by early next year? And what is the realistic timeline for the victims to finally see the former president take the stand?
Okay, that's a good point. Good question. On the first place, technically, it's not still in the trial proper. This is still pre-trial. Number two, there are actually two standing issues before the ICC now. One is the jurisdictional challenge. This was already dismissed by the pre-trial chamber, but there's a pending appeal before the appeals chamber. So we also expect the appeals chamber of the ICC to have a scheduling order. Second pending issue is actually the issue on the alleged questions on the fitness to stand trial of Mr. Duterte, which is still before the pre-trial chamber. And there are two important dates to remember. First is December 5 of this year. Why? Because that's actually the deadline for that 3-person panel appointed by the pre-trial chamber to give their either individual report or joint report. So December 5, they will submit that joint or individual reports to the pre-trial chamber. Next, a week later, or December 12, parties as well as participants, they have the opportunity to give their responses to those joint or individual reports. So hopefully, there will be a decision on Mr. Duterte's fitness to stand trial either this year or early next year. And also a date to remember, January 27 is the start of the judicial calendar of the ICC.
Okay, so before we head to the trial proper, Attorney Andres, 2 dates that we need to consider. That's December 5 and December 12. And in addition, that's January 27. So that's 3 dates to remember before this actual trial of Mr. Duterte can proceed.
Yes, and we also presume that there will be, if there's really a confirmation of Mr. Duterte's fitness to stand trial, we hope that the pre-trial chamber will schedule the confirmation of charges. Remember, Jerome, the confirmation of charges was originally scheduled for September 23, but
Indeed.
it was scheduled based on the motion to adjourn by the defense, although the adjournment is not indefinite. It's a limited period of adjournment and postponement. So on the part of the victims of the war on drugs, we really hope that there will be a confirmation of Mr. Duterte's fitness to stand trial. And hopefully, within early next year or first quarter of next year, 2026, there will be a schedule for the confirmation of charges.
Confirmation of charges. Okay. In short, to cut it short, we're still in the pre-trial phase of this case of
yes,
Mr.
you're
Duterte.
correct on that, Jerome. Yes,
Alright.
pre-trial.
It's a pre-trial. Okay. All right. So now the main principal is in custody, which is a former president, and his release has been denied. So, what does this signal to the other named suspects like Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa? As we know, he was the police chief of the Duterte administration. So does the court's firm stance on Duterte's detention increase the likelihood of new arrest warrants to be served against the senator?
Okay, technically these are separate issues. Why? Because it's the office of the prosecutor which will actually apply for an arrest warrant. And under the amended regulations of the ICC, any application for arrest warrant are actually under seal. They're actually secret. But having said that, actually for us at Center Law and for the victims of the war on drugs, it has been our constant and consistent position that there should be an ICC arrest warrant against Senator Bato de la Rosa. Why? Because logically, if you look at the count number 2 and count number 3 charged against Mr. Duterte, it involves the high-value targets who were killed under Oplan Double Barrel. And in fact, that's really based on Command Memorandum Circular 16-2016. This was issued by then PNP Chief Bato de la Rosa upon his assumption of office on July 1, 2016. And there's also count 3 of the charges against Mr. Duterte. That's crimes against humanity for murder for those who were murdered under Oplan Tokhang in the low-income communities. And that's actually based also on Command Memorandum Circular 16-2016, which was issued by then Chief PNP Bato de la Rosa. So if we just follow logically the document containing charges as well as the evidence submitted before the ICC, we really expect an ICC arrest warrant against Mr. Bato de la Rosa.
I see. Okay. All right. Okay. But before I head to the next and last question, but I would like to ask this first. Attorney Andres, how many victims of the drug war of the Duterte administration do you represent?
Okay. Actually, as of now, Jerome, I cannot specify that number. Why? Because the context here is an international crime being charged. So there's actually a principle under international criminal law. That's the do no harm principle. So because there's a heightened risk of security for the victims of an international crime, such as the crimes against humanity for murder. That's why we never state how many victims we actually represent. We never state also where they are located or what and who are their names. Except that we can say we've been representing them before domestic and international tribunals and remedies since 2016.
I see. Okay. Because I asked that because since now the former president was transferred to The Hague, and at the same time the interim release was rejected by the ICC appeals chamber. There have been reports of among his supporters mourning the rejection, while his camp slammed the decision, which they branded as inhumane. So, how are the victims reacting to this narrative? And is the sight of him in detention enough, or are they anxious about the outcome of the actual trial? Attorney Andres.
First, for the victims of the war on drugs, they were very thankful upon hearing the decision last Friday. In fact, they thank God because they see it as an answered prayer. They have been fervently praying for the decision of the appeals chamber. Secondly, they felt relieved. Why? Because we have already manifested before the ICC the heightened risk, especially if Mr. Duterte is released from ICC custody. Third, for the victims of the war on drugs, this is merely a first step, a very tentative first step towards attaining full justice for their loved ones who were murdered under the war on drugs. And fourth, let me answer that directly, the issue of humane consideration. If one says humane consideration, then this is actually an invocation of international human rights law. Question is, did Mr. Duterte actually respect the human rights of those who were murdered under his war on drugs? Secondly, humane consideration is not really a factor for consideration of an interim release application. They can all look at Article 58 of the Rome Statute. Third, any concerns about the health of any detainee, including Mr. Duterte, that is addressed very sufficiently by the facilities of the ICC. Why? Because, Jerome, as I've said publicly, the budget per person per day for any detainee in the ICC, it's more than the budget if you actually check in at a 5-star hotel. Why? Right. Because all of the needs, whether physical, mental, psychosocial, spiritual, it's actually provided for by the ICC, and all the dietary requirements or needs of a detainee, it's provided for, because the ICC adheres to international human rights standards, and in fact, they want to go beyond the minimum standards under international law.
I see. And the court will observe the humane treatment regardless if former President Duterte is involved in such this case regarding the war on drugs of his administration. The court will strictly implement and observe humane treatment for former President Duterte.
Yes, you're right on that point, Jerome.
Okay, got it. All right, we don't have much time, but I would like to thank you for joining us in the program, and we will monitor this situation as this case is a pre-trial and we're not yet on the trial proper. As you mentioned earlier, we have 3 dates to watch out for. So that's 2 events for this month and another one in next year by January. And thank you so much, Attorney Gilbert Andres, the ICC accredited lawyer, for joining us in the program.
Thank you, Jerome. At mabuhay tayo.
And that was Attorney Gilbert Andres, the ICC accredited lawyer. And Front and Center will be right back after these messages.
Mabilis ang trivia, dagdag talino. Heto na ang Dagling Kaalaman.
Alam mo ba, kumakain daw ng sarili ang ating utak araw-araw? Ang prosesong ito ay tinatawag na phagocytosis, kung saan ang mga cells sa utak ay nililinis ang mga sirang bahagi o sobrang koneksyon para manatiling maayos ang takbo ng ating isip. Kapag natutulog tayo, mas aktibo pa ito na parang garbage collector ng utak na naglilinis ng mga basurang selula at lumang koneksyon. At sa proseso ng paglaki, lalo na sa adolescence, tinatanggal ng utak ang mga hindi na ginagamit na koneksyon para mas maging matalino, mas mahusay at mas handa tayo sa adult life. Kaya oo, kumakain ng sarili ang utak mo, pero ginagawa niya ito para mas maging mahusay ka.
Kaunting kaalaman na malaking dagdag talino. Abangan muli ang susunod na Dagling Kaalaman.
Paano nga ba mag-register para magkaroon ng schedule sa Bagong Pilipinas Presidential Action Center? Narito ang mga dapat gawin. Gamit ang iyong mobile device, pumunta sa eGov.ph app. Pwede itong i-download mula sa Apple App Store o sa Google Play Store. Gumawa ng account. Ilagay ang email address, valid mobile number, pagkatapos ay makakatanggap ka ng one-time code sa iyong email. Gamitin ang code sa eGov app para sa verification ng iyong account at ng mga impormasyong ibinigay. Congratulations! Meron ka ng eGov.ph app account. Pwede mo na ma-access ang iba't ibang serbisyo ng gobyerno kabilang ang mga serbisyo sa Bagong Pilipinas Presidential Action Center.
Front and Center. here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome back to Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Still with me, Jerome Toledo. And just a quick recap of what we have discussed earlier with Attorney Gilbert Andresa. He said that the decision of the ICC rejecting the interim release of former President Duterte is consistent with the ICC. And at the same time, Attorney Andres mentioned that should the SC or the Supreme Court release a decision regarding the legality of former President Duterte's arrest March 11 of this year, Attorney Andres said that that the appeal case which filed by the Duterte camp will be dismissed and it will be declared as moot and academic. And at the same time, he mentioned about the trials that is coming up for the case of Mr. Duterte, particularly because he mentioned that this is a pre-trial period, but it's not yet the actual trial of former president. So we have the 3 dates to watch out for. So that's for December 5, and at the same time here on December 12, and next year that's on January 27. So that's that 3 dates is still part of the pre-trial case or a pre-trial period of this case regarding the case of Mr. Duterte. And he mentioned about the case of Senator De La Rosa, the police chief of the chief of the Philippine National Police during the Duterte administration. He said that an expected arrest warrant will be served against the now Senator Ronald De La Rosa. And before we go, since we're now starting we've just started our broadcast on shortwave, we'll repeat the following frequencies and the schedules of English and Filipino programs airing. So let's start here on English programs. We'll be airing from 10 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. Manila time, or that's 200 to 3:30 UTC. We'll be airing this English programs at 12.020 megahertz, 15.640 megahertz, and 17.665 megahertz. Meanwhile, on Filipino programs airing from 1:30 a.m. until 4:30 a.m. Manila time, or 17:30 to 20:30 UTC, that's 9.370 megahertz, 9.925 megahertz, and 12.120 megahertz. And that broadcast is now starting today, December 1st, 10 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. on English program, and later Filipino programs will air from 1:30 a.m. until 4:30 a.m. Manila time. And with that, we now conclude this edition of Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Together with our technical team headed by Ms. Susan Aizon, and in our Wirecast, we have Hiro Lucero, and audio streaming, we have Justine Osias. This is your host, Jerome Toledo. Until next time, mabuhay.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.
Ramdam natin ibang simoy ng hangin. Ito ay tanda na mayroong darating. Pagsilang ng sanggol doon sa Bethlehem, siya ang nagligtas ng kasalanan natin. O bakit pa nalimutan na natin ang siyang tunay na na diwa ng Pasko. Mag-alay sa ating kapwa, lalo't di pinagpala. Tayo ay magmahal nang walang kapalit. Ang tunay na Pasko ay tayo, ano man ang ginagawa natin. Ang Pasko ay pagmamahalan, pagbibigay, kapatawaran. Ang Pasko ay ikaw at ako, iba-iba man ay isa tayo. Tayong lahat ay Pilipino, yan ang tunay na diwa ng Pasko. Sana'y magilong na mga sugat natin, kahit iba-iba paniniwala natin. Kaya ngayong Pasko, magkasundo tayo, pareho lang naman, maganda ang hangarin. Ang tunay na Pasko ay tayo, ano man ang ginagawa natin. Ang Pasko ay pagmamahalan, pagbibigay, kapatawaran. Ang Pasko ay ikaw at ako, iba-iba man ay isa tayo. Tayong lahat ay Pilipino, yan ang tunay na diwa ng Pasko. Ang tunay na Pasko ay tayo, ano man ang ginagawa natin. Ang Pasko ay pagmamahalan, pagbibigay, kapatawaran. Ang Pasko ay ikaw at ako, iba-iba man ay iisa tayo. Tayong lahat ay Pilipino, yan ang tunay na diwa ng Pasko. Yan ang tunay na diwa ng Pasko.